Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong show, wrong day, y'all. My bad.
I was about to say, what are you doing?
Welcome to, I guess I should read the script. Welcome to episode 503 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, radio show and podcast, the show that covers the sporting HBCU diaspora. In essence, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU programs and the business of HBCU sport. I am not your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. This is AD Drew sitting in the pilot's chair today. Joining us today, Brian Fulford and Kelvin Carter, as Mike Washington and Charles Bishop are out on assignment. We are filming from they are filming from their home studios. I am at the SIAC track meet at the Edwin C. Moses track in Atlanta, Georgia, on the campus of Morehouse University. And I just saw somebody got walked down in the 4x100. Anyway, we are sending the signal live to KCOHAM Studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University, from where he's in Houston, Texas. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Brian's in Orlando, Florida, and Kelvin is in St. Louis, Missouri. Fellas, what's going on? How y'all doing today?
Good to see you, AD. Good to see you, Brian.
Good to see you, Kelvin. Good to see you. Looking good, man.
Thank you, my friend.
Gotta ask
Call this the sports rap takeover. Substitute professors in the house.
Man, do we just take attendance and just let them go home? Nah, we gonna keep y'all the whole time, man. We gonna keep y'all the whole time. Hey, fellas, before I get going any further, track, what's your favorite event watching? Go, Kelvin, you go first.
Probably the 4x1 and the 4x4. I like the relays, just seeing like the pure speed of the 4x1 and then just seeing the grit and determination of the 4x4.
Yeah. Do you like when you're seeing somebody get hawked out, or when you
Brian, I lost you. I lost your audio there, Drew.
Yes, Brian. Brian, what's your favorite two relays?
I'd say the 4x1. The 4x1, then the 4x4. But I have to throw in the hurdles in there as well. The hurdles are kind of my alternate. If I had to just have a dash or a race, non-relay event, I'd have to definitely say the 100-meter hurdles. Or 110 hurdles, maybe. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, yes, 110 for the men, 100 for the women. My favorite event, maybe because I used to run it, and it's a man's race, is the quarter. One time around, all out, as fast as you can, stay in your lane, and that is the man's race right there, or the woman's race, because you have that. to go an all-out sprint for that long, that's the fastest 50 some odd seconds of most people's lives right there. Before we continue on, I've got to get this out the way. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Like I said, fellas, today is the opening day of the SIAC track meet. We had the first half of the women's heptathlon and the men's decathlon this morning. We had a couple of field events that they got out the way. They did the long jump finals today. They did the hammer. I believe the women did the hammer today. They've got some prelims going on right now. Then they've got the run to 4x1 right now. The 10,000 for the men and the women is next today, and I believe that is the final event of today that they are going to have. Is the 10,000. So, fellas, not a whole lot going on in HBCU sports this week. Only the GCAC baseball tournament going on. Like I say, I'm at the SIC track meet. Nothing else going on, right, fellas?
No, nothing. No breaking, no big news, nothing to talk about. Nothing. Just this little thing called the draft. Oh, and there might be some coaching news. That's about it,
Well, Brian, I guess I'll let you lead it off. What's the news that you want to bring to the people today?
Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't start the show and talk about the major announcement that came from the University of Charlotte, where 4-time SWAC Coach of the Year Tamika Reed was named Charlotte's 9th women's basketball head coach. Of course, we're all familiar with Coach Reed and the dominating seasons over the past 5-6 seasons that she has had at Jackson State. She was essentially at the end of the contract. The new contract had not been renewed for her, and so as we had kind of seen,
had it not been renewed or had it not been signed by everybody, by the people who needed to sign it, be it her, be it the university. We'll just leave that right there.
Well, that's a great point, and I think that those are kind of things that will come out, obviously, with the good investigative reporting. That for a lot of people, that'll be tomorrow's question, But today, there is a lot of. I'm sure for a lot of Jackson State fans, there's a little bit of shock, but there's also a lot of appreciation and really just kind of understanding the marketplace and understanding the situation, and so I think everything that I've seen and read over the past 3 hours has been appreciation for Tamika Reed. And so I think Jackson State fans are probably a little shocked, but those in their heart probably are more appreciative than anything, and then they'll ask the next questions later.
Kelvin, your comment?
It's just really interesting to see the amount of success that she's had, leveraging the transfer portal, building a great program. And I think all of us, we all know the financial constraints of compensation at our level. But the Tamika Reed piece to Charlotte, it's not a big surprise, but it's one of those where, did they exhaust all efforts to keep her, at Jackson State? And, this is the second go round. Like now who's the next up? Who's the replacement? Will it be in-house or will it be someone? So just looking forward to seeing how it all transpired. But to see that beacon, I wouldn't want to lose that beacon of SWAC or HBCU in the tournament that she built there, but it's looking forward to just seeing what the next steps are.
Yeah. And before we jump off this subject, fellas, right now, today, April 25th, given the dynamics, we don't know who the next hire at Jackson State is going to be, but the shift of the balance of power in women's basketball in the SWAC. I'm asking you guys right now, where do you think that balance of power is going to shift? Which team? Kelvin, you go first. Which team do you think is going to be the new going to be the unicorn?
Well, I think with what we saw out of UAPB and their coach shifting to Alabama A&M, I think city, facility, things that are kind of really aligned. I don't, the recycling of coaches and coaches shifting within the league has always been interesting to me. Although we've seen that happen in Power 5 conferences with Calipari from Kentucky to Arkansas. But I think with that move of that coach from UAPB to Alabama A&M, I think you might see them become that next power. And, based upon what Tamika Reed's been able to put together in Jackson, I could see them continuing that legacy with the hiring of the right coach.
Brian?
Drew, it's a loaded question because we've seen so many players from SWAC women's basketball teams enter the portal. I can't honestly tell you who, maybe Grambling. Grambling might be next team up. I mean, that was a team who really had a great season. I don't know what their numbers are in terms of returners, but I'm sure Grambling feels like they put together a very good program under their first-year coach heading into her second year. But the portal numbers, I mean, they're significant for SWAC women's basketball. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it balances out, because I can also tell you Bethune-Cookman was a team, Southern was a team, and those are teams that beat Division I teams, Power 5 teams, if I'm not mistaken, during the non-conference. So I think all three of those teams are going to be among. I think it just opens it up. I think, and look, who stays with Jackson State is also going to be a question, because I think they had a nice group of players returning, and now what is it? Today's the 25th. The portal is still open for 5 more days. Will we see more Jackson State players?
No, basketball is open until the end of May. Basketball is just beginning their 45.
I don't think it's open until the end of May.
Yeah,
I think it's May.
You're correct. You're correct. They're 45 days.
May 1, I think, is for grad it transfers. It's May 1. So I think May 1 is kind of everybody's target, or essentially you could say April 30th. Yeah. So that's 5 days from now. Right. So that's interesting. I would like to say, I know I saw one of the comments, somebody asked about it not being about the money. And I think what's interesting is, I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago we talked, or it was on this show, or maybe we talked about it through, back channels and talking with our friends who covered Jackson State and are aware that there was an offer for a 4-year, $250,000 per year offer that I believe was on the table. I don't know all the details. It was believed to be that was the offer that Jackson State was going to be presenting her with. Well, I looked up what the previous coach at Charlotte made, and last year the previous coach made $269 base. So, I mean, is Coach Reed going to make close to $3? Is her value worth $3? Charlotte is in what? The conference? They're in Conference USA?
I believe so.
Or either the American Conference. Okay. One of the things about that pay piece, and I think a lot of people, even within our group, and Dr. Cavil is probably abreast of this, is the salaries within the Mississippi public universities are controlled in terms of their base by our IHL commission. So those salaries, I'm not saying that they're misleading, but if you have other resources, which I'm assuming Charlotte's resource base might be a little bit different, to offer more things that make the job more attractive. So it might not have been about the base. It might have been about all the other perks and incentives that come along with it.
Yeah. And we talked about teams. I don't know if our guest is here yet, Brian. You could monitor that and tell me. But one other team that I think we need to watch out for, and that's your alma mater, Kelvin, Alcorn State. Remember, they were runner-up in the tournament this year. They put together a run at the end of the season and were able to defensively show a little progress and get themselves into the tournament and make them run into the tournament all the way to the finals. So I think Alcorn should their core pieces come back, maybe another player that we may need to watch out for on the women's side of basketball. And with that, we're gonna put a pin in this. We'll try to get back to this a little bit later. Coming up after the break, we will have the interview, and then after that, we may get into some baseball news, fellas. Did y'all hear that might be a new baseball HBCU program coming on board? I don't know. We'll talk about it again. You're watching Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. AD, Brian, Kelvin. We'll be right back after this message.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messages quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. AD Drew piloting the ship today. Brian Fulford, Kelvin Carter, joining us here today. And joining us here today, we were just talking about championships. We talked about basketball championships, but we got a championship coach here. Also, Coach Larry Rather of Fort Valley State University. Some of y'all may be wondering, what sport does this brother coach? Well, he coaches both men and women's volleyball for Fort Valley State. And he is the coach that is going to be taking the first SIAC representative to the national tournament, the men's volleyball tournament, where they will be facing, they play at UC Irvine, and you guys face UCLA. Do I have that correct, Coach?
We'll be playing at Long Beach, but we play UCLA.
Long Beach.
Sure.
Yes. All right. Yes. You played in Long Beach, and you'll be playing UCLA. Anyway, before I mess anything else up, Coach, how you doing today? First of all, just go through, and I've been following your program pretty much since you guys, since the SIAC started it 3 years ago. I've been coming up following you guys' program. Just talk about the beginnings, how your program has grown, and what this championship means, not only to get this championship in the third year of Fort Valley men's volleyball, but to actually be the first one to get the automatic bid for the conference?
Man, it's been a fun and tough journey, that's for sure. I mean, the first 2 years we started out extremely young. I mean, we were freshmen in year one with all stateside kids and those who follow men's volleyball much. Most top teams are heavy international guys. You look at the teams we're about to go face in the NCAA tournament, and of the 6 starters, probably half for each team are international guys. So those guys are coming in with a lot more experience, and they're coming in with a lot more maturity. So for us in year one to have true freshmen was going to be a lot of bumps and bruises. I mean, our records showed it. We took a lot of L's for sure, and the same thing in year two. But I think those L's helped us learn the lesson we needed to be prepared for what's to come this season. And that was our goal all year, or this whole time of the program, was to be ready for year three when that automatic qualifier came about. And we got it, and our boys did not disappoint this year.
Yes. And talk about not disappointing. I believe you guys lost one set in conference play this season. I believe 35 out of 36, 36 out of 37. It was somewhere in the mid-30s as far as number of sets that you guys played, and including a sweep in both the semifinals and the finals of the conference tournament. So, Coach, before I turn it over to the guys, I've got one question, because we talked about you on our Sunday show, the show that I host with Brian, the BCS and the Sports Wrap. And there was one question that was prevalent in our chats, and I figured we might as well ask the expert on this one. What are the big differences between men's volleyball and women's volleyball?
The biggest difference is going to be the physicality to an extent. It's kind of like where you look at men's and women's basketball, where men's basketball is a little bit faster pace and has more dunking than women's, but that's kind of changing now too, right? To where you're having some more women's players who can actually dunk now, and you're like, oh, the game's changing. But for men's volleyball, you have guys touching 11, 12 feet, playing on a net that's only about 9 feet high. So these guys are chest above this net, hitting the ball at 60, 70 miles per hour, and you got to use your own body to deflect it, right? Which is a lot different. Women, it's probably a little bit lower than that, but most people aren't crazy enough to get in front of a ball coming that hot and wanting to deflect it up, right?
Yeah. All right, Brian, go ahead.
Well, first off, congratulations, Coach, on winning the SIC and qualifying for the NCAA tournament. I'd like for you to talk about the progression of your program in terms of your recruiting. You know, the first couple of years of trying to establish yourself and build that base for your program, and then turn from last season to this championship season. What has some of the recruiting successes, or just some of the elements that you have tried to instill that has gotten you to this championship?
I think the biggest thing was just maturity for our guys. Our oldest class is now juniors, right? They were the ones who started with us as freshmen in year one, and they're now the older guys. And when they came into it, they had no leadership other than us as coaches, right? They didn't have any peers who could show them the ropes of, hey, this is what a championship team does. This is how champions act. This is how you do things in this level. So they kind of had a trial by error when they first got here. And now they've kind of figured it out and have helped our younger guys get ready. But during that recruiting process, it's all about who wants to be someone who's going to go against the norm. For us and our people, right, volleyball is not the first thing you think of when you think of Black people playing a sport. So that's kind of why I came to Fort Valley, to get it going there and show that we are more capable than just the average sport that you would see us playing. And, you know, when you talk about running and jumping and just athleticism, you think of us, right? Volleyball is probably one of the most athletic sports out there, where you have to be extremely dynamic in the air, on the ground, just a bunch of different things. And now it's time for us to start taking over. You look at any sport where we weren't allowed to play in it, we own it now. And that's what's about to happen now with this. So it's finding kids who have that same mindset and who want to be aggressive and who want to chase being a champion and making legacies.
Nice.
Well, Coach, I got one quick question for you. So I live in the state of Missouri where they just voted in boys volleyball as what we call a championship series sport and not a club sport. How do you feel about the fact that you have, not that it's a struggle in recruitment, however, we know these young men are athletic enough to play the sport if they're exposed to it early. And I watched one of the largest volleyball championships here in St. Louis for club, but I don't see very many people that look like us on this show playing the sport. And how do we take it from being, the family reunion at the park sport for everybody, which we all love to play volleyball when it's time to play. It's like nobody says we don't want to play, but to taking it to the same level of exposure as AAU basketball, in-season basketball. What are your thoughts on that, especially in what states do you recruit from, and are you willing to take a hybrid athlete, like a guy that that can be really good at this, but hasn't had any of the early on training?
I mean, the way we have kids from all over. We have kids from New York area. We have Buffalo. We have Rochester. We have guys from Illinois, guys we had from California. We have a young man, one international guy from Trinidad. So for us, recruiting is everywhere. We're looking to find the best athletes possible to best represent us in our university. So we're never just going to look in one little place. But I think what's going to help more is, like you said, you guys just sanctioned it as a high school sport. That's huge, especially for us and our people, because to play volleyball at the current climate that we're in, you have to play club first. You have to play travel ball first. And travel ball isn't cheap in the volleyball community. I mean, you're looking at maybe on the low side, $5,000 just to play this sport and the travel. And that's not including your housing. That's not including your travel, your meals, right? So you're probably looking to the north end of 10,000, right? Just to try to experience something that I don't even know if I like this yet. So getting it sanctioned in schools. But really, right? Like, I'm going to drop this kind of a bread that I barely have right now. That's a house. That's a down payment. That's a car. That's a bunch of different things for families that I'm going to spend that now on my kid to try something when that should be done in the high school realm, right? So I think Missouri starting it off, being one of the schools that started, is awesome. Georgia I just found out yesterday that Georgia did not pass through boys volleyball out here, which is sad because we have 7 universities that offer men's volleyball. So you're stopping these kids from having an opportunity to stay in the state. And we're going to talk about what it's always about, right? And it's always about the mighty dollar. And states want to keep state money in state. Well, you're not going to keep state money in state if you don't allow these kids the opportunity to find something else that can help them stay in the state. So once you sanction it out here and all the other states sanction it, now these kids can try it out in our community in a safer environment with people who look like them, so they're allowed to be more vulnerable. It's hard for us to be vulnerable when it's not our people leading it at the top, because now we have to put on that fake face that we always have to put on because we're not allowed to be our authentic selves because we're aggressive or we're too emotional, whatever it may be. But really, it's just we're passionate about what we do.
Well, Coach, does it open an opportunity, even without a sponsored piece? I listened to the baseball guys say something that I felt like was very powerful. They said if you can allow our students that look like us to compete in our community, they can be vulnerable. They can have the ability to play and fail and be better. So does it open up a window for someone like yourself to come in to these inner city spaces like St. Louis, Missouri, where we have city recs that are well funded, and place volleyball programs within those inner city rec centers, building a pipeline without even have to go through these state associations, to where someone could call you up and say, hey, Coach Rother, we have someone based upon the program that you've implemented here for us that could compete at this level and that could garner those scholarship dollars that are offered.
Absolutely. That's actually something I've been in the works on for a couple of years now. Back during COVID, right around when George Floyd was killed, I had a buddy of mine that I coached with at the University of Charleston reach out and like, hey, you should start a podcast about what it's like to be Black and play volleyball, right? To be in that environment. And I did. And the next stages of what I'm trying to get is being able to take a nationwide tour and get to these inner city schools and areas and teach them volleyball, and not just teach the kids, but create a self-sustaining ecosystem of training the officials so they know what it's like and how to actually do it so the game's not watered down, teaching the kids, teaching the coaches, and doing it year round to where they can now become self-efficient on their own. If they need us, great, I'll come back through. But also it's going to allow us the ability to take these kids who look like them that are playing collegiate volleyball and have them have summer jobs, right? Allow our kids an opportunity to work, but then also see someone like them teaching it, right? Teach one, reach one. I teach them, they teach the next generation, because they're going to look at us as the old heads now, right? I'm not that old, but these little ones are going to look at the old head.
The young,
right?
young old head right now.
Yeah, right. I'm on the bottom end of it. But then they have the guys who are in college that they're going to look at as idols. So being able to go out and do these kind of things, absolutely, we wouldn't necessarily need the sanction of it to be in high schools, but that helps because, like, in any sport, the more touches you get, the better you get, right? The more opportunities I have to fail, the better I am. So that's where the high school system then helps out with them being able to get as many reps as possible to just continue to fail, because you can't get better unless you fail.
All right, hey, Coach, we need to take a break right now. You mind hanging out for another segment with us?
Absolutely.
All right. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and take our halftime break. Anybody who's got any questions for Coach Rantham, you can go ahead and put them in the chat while we're on this break. We'll see if we can get to them. Coach Larry Rather from Fort Valley State, Kelvin Carter, Brian Fulford. You're watching Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll be right back after this message.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
We're back here on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Michael Washington and Charles Bishop. AD Drew sitting in for the dean, sitting in for the provost. We've upgraded him to the provost here on the show. Brian Fulford, Kelvin Carter sitting in for the fellas. And joining us for the interview is Coach Larry Rather from Fort Valley State University. Coach, got a couple questions that I've been wanting to get out at you. First of all, very, very unique coaching dynamic that you have there. You actually have the privilege of coaching with your father, who is your assistant coach. So, and I've done that not on the collegiate level, but on the high school and the middle school and the AAU circuit when I was coaching basketball, where my father was my assistant coach, and part of that was just Dad just wanted to be around, but also Dad had knowledge that he had back from his ball playing days. Just talk about how special that is to have your father sitting there on the bench to either to your left or your right, depending on which side of the court you're sitting on.
I mean, the first thing I start with is I'm the captain now, right? He's got to listen to me.
That was a conversation that we had to have. We're not in the backyard anymore, Dad.
Yeah. But I mean, it's something special. Definitely. I mean, he's been doing what I'm doing at the college level now at Fort Valley. He's been doing that for probably 20 years at the high school level already back home in Illinois, back in the Chicago area at North Chicago High School, which is pretty much like Fort Valley, just a high school level school. So like he's been helping minority kids his whole life trying to achieve this. And now we're on the grand scale of it all. And being able to go to the national tournament with him couldn't ask for anything better. Like these are the memories you live for as a kid, to be able to say you did this with your father, like you got a ring. And now it's something for my son to be able to see when I get old and I'm his age and my son's my age, we can have that same dynamic. But I mean, he has the wisdom. He got me to where I was as a player. I was an undersized 5'11" outside playing Division I volleyball at Ball State. And I started every year. And that doesn't happen very often when my counterparts are 6'4" to 6'5" and taller. And I'm making them mine, right? I'm owning what I have to do. And that started with him giving me the knowledge I had. And I like to say I'm the Ed Rather 2.0. I'm the upgrade. He's the old, outdated model. I'm coming in with the new bells and whistles ideas, right? But his way of doing things helps our guys that are newer to the game. Kelvin asked it earlier. We have 3 guys on our team that have only been playing for a year. And we've been teaching them and training them and getting them up. And now one of them is a guy who was about to be a starter and had some things happen in the early half of the season that made him sit out for the majority of the year. But we train our guys. We're not afraid to put in the work. It's something that was said by what's the Pittsburgh Steelers football head coach?
Mike Tomlin.
So he put out as like a coach that says this kid doesn't know how to do something that's technical. That means you're not a coach. You shouldn't be doing this. And that's how we are. We don't care if you don't know it at all. We'll use fishing. We'll use football. We'll use basketball. Whatever sport you know, we'll figure out a way to make it work for you so you can learn this game and be as good as you want to be. So he helps our guys get the base level of everything. And then I take them to that advanced level and we go on from there. So it's been a great dynamic duo. There's always times where it's headbutting. I mean, it's a father-son. We're both very aggressive and assertive people. So there's always headbutting. But I think the more we go and the longer we do it, we kind of start to find our way as a father-son dynamic duo of knowing who's going to cover what and who's going to take what.
Do you call him dad or do you call him coach on the bench?
I call him Pops. Anybody I talk to, even to the kids, like, hey, Dad, Pop, and they'll call him Pops too. So he is the dad of the team, really. I'm like, the way I put it to the guys is I'm like the big brother. I'm the one who's going to speak at you straight. I've been through what you're going through, so I know all the slick stuff you're trying to pull. Don't do it because I'm a no. And Dad's the one that's going to find out, and he's going to be mad, but I'm the one who's going to give the punishment.
There you go. Now, you mentioned the tournament, Coach. We've got to ask this, and Brian and I talked about this. You guys, let's be real. In the eyes of everyone, you guys getting a victory, and when I say everyone, you know who I'm talking about, would probably be one of the greatest upsets in NCAA sports. You're going up against one of the blue bloods of men's volleyball in a 3-year program. Nothing has nothing to do with the fact that we're an HBCU. It's the fact that Fort Valley is a 3-year-old program. Now, with all that out the way, what is it going to take for you to pull off that upset, Coach?
I mean, UCLA is going to come in, like you said, right? They're a more established program. They're a perennial powerhouse. They're a 50-plus-year-old program. We're a 3-year-old program. Like, we're still trying to learn how to walk at this point, right? They've been running for a while, so they have their culture set in stone of this is what a championship culture is like. And I think we're starting to get that. But for us to be competitive and to compete against these guys, we just got to capitalize when they give us errors. I mean, they may be UCLA, but they're still human at the end of the day. They're going to make errors. They're going to do some things that give us some free opportunities. We just got to capitalize when they give it to us.
All right. Kelvin, we're going to let you go first this time.
Well, in terms of building those players and talking about what it means to be there, like, again, building that pipeline. You're in Illinois. I think you said your dad was at North Chicago, which was District 187. And East St. Louis is really close to us, District 189. And I went to school with about 5 female volleyball players from there at Alcorn State University. So what's the next steps in understanding where you have to go and how you're going to recruit? But kind of that outreach you mentioned earlier, you're teaching your players, you're creating a platform by which they can travel and teach this game. How are you going to, how are you impacting that in your immediate community around around your university?
So right now it's a little tough just because I'm running the men's and women's program. So I'm constantly in season. And then when I'm not in season, I'm out recruiting. So it's hard to really get into the community as much as I would like. The plan is to get to our elementary schools and just take our teams and just demo volleyball to them for an hour so they can see what it looks like. And they can start envisioning themselves at a younger age versus waiting until middle school or high school. So tapping into the elementaries and just doing an hour convocation of just, hey, here's a couple of skills we'll demo. We'll bring a couple of kids out on the court, and then we'll play for like the last 30 minutes just to give them some excitement and see how fast-paced the game is. I think that's the next step for us as a program. And now having this championship banner on us and this ring on our finger, it's going to make it a little bit nicer to walk in there with those kids and really interact with them like, hey, they're champions. Like, oh, wow, they did this and they went up against UCLA. Like, from our own our backyard, they're doing this. Like, that's awesome. So I would say that would definitely be the next steps.
All right. Brian.
Coach, I was just going to ask you, looking at, obviously you opened the season on the West Coast against Pepperdine, UCLA, and USC. I mean, that's an amazing trip. I mean, I've gone around the sun almost 5 decades, and I've never gotten to California. So, I mean, I can't imagine. You thought that was a subtle way of, I didn't want to say it, Drew. I didn't want to say it, but I've
see if they got it.
I don't say it. Don't say it, Drew. Be quiet. Be quiet. This is my question. Get out of the way. So my question was about the trip to California and just having the opportunity to take your student athletes, take your team, the program out there to play those programs, those blue bloods. And now here you are at the end of the season. Was that the mindset when you scheduled it, or just talk a little bit about what your team learned from that and how that can help you going into this contest upcoming?
100%. It was part of the plan. We knew this year we had our automatic qualifier, so we had to get ready to face some teams like that. And to do it early in the year, it helps you create the culture you want, right? It allows you to see what it's like. You can watch on TV a champion, but you don't see the intangibles, right? When you're in front of them and you're in their face and you're next to them, you can see how they walk, how they talk, how they interact with one another, how they warm up, how they interact with their coach, right? Like, these are all the little things in championship programs that you need. It's not just about having a bunch of guys who can play the game at a high level. It's, can they play at a high level, play together, and then do it day in and day out, even if they're not getting those results. So making that trip out there was extremely important for our culture and our program. But the other side of it too is, like you said, is some of our guys never been on a plane. Some of our guys never been out of the state. So it was a life experience for them as well. And that's what we want to bring, not just a volleyball experience, but a life experience to these young men so they can broaden their horizons, right? So being able to go out there, you had guys who had their first time on a plane, guys their first time in California, guys their first time playing against a big-time program and seeing what that atmosphere looks like, because now that allows them to bring that culture of what a gym atmosphere looks like to their own campus and start getting the involvement around them. So I think going into the tournament, facing UCLA being one of the teams we opened our season with, our guys feel comfortable to an extent, right? They're facing someone they've already faced. So it's not a unknown here and then a completely new experience, right? It's a new experience in a familiar team versus a new experience in a new team. That's a lot of new stuff hitting some guys that they're going to probably freak out a little bit. But being able to play a team you've already faced gives them a little bit of comfortability of like, okay, we've seen these guys. We've seen them when we were down a couple of people. We know what they're capable of. I'd rather take the evil that I know versus the evil I don't.
All right.
Well said.
Well said, Coach. Well said. All right, Coach. I talked to you 2-3 months ago about this, giving you an opportunity to come on one of our podcasts. So I appreciate you accepting my invitation. But I waited to the right time when I saw you had a championship level team. I told you, I was like, win this championship so I could bring you on the podcast, man. And I kept my word.
We didn't disappoint.
Yeah,
3-0 sweeps across the board.
And you kept your half of the bargain too with all those sweeps. So with that being said, Coach, I want to give you the last word for this interview.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys for allowing me to use your platform to get our voice out there as a program and just be able to use it to get men's volleyball out there in our community a little bit more. So I'm thankful for you guys for that opportunity. I'm thankful for Fort Valley and our guys at our program. I mean, a lot of what we accomplished this year is due to a lot of hard work they've put in. I don't get Coach of the Year without them being consistent on a day-to-day basis and dealing with me, right? That's not easy. I'm thankful for my father taking this journey with me and my wife holding it down at home and making sure I'm able and free to be able to do the things I do to be able to reach these young men and these young women. So without those people, I mean, I'm not in a spot to be talking to you today about us going to California and playing in a national tournament. So it's big ups to those folks in my life that are always impactful. The last thing I'd give you guys is if you want to learn more about what it's like to be a Black men's volleyball player, you can check out my podcast. It's Motivate MVB. That's MOTIV, the number 8, M as in Mary, V as in volley, and B as in ball. It's on majority of your streaming services. Take a listen. I have some great hosts on there with me. At the time, he was the assistant coach for Hawaii. He's now at Baylor, the head coach for Fort Wayne University, McKendree University head coach, California Northridge head coach, and Fairleigh Dickinson head coach. So it's all of us. We're all Black head coaches. We've all been through this. We know what the experience is like, and we kind of sit down and chop it up and talk about how our white allies can help us. We talk about what it's like being Black going overseas to play professional because there's no professional in the States. So you have to go overseas, and that limits for us as African-American people, our opportunities are less than our counterparts because you have coaches who won't hire a Black athlete, right? Like our media of what they get may be old, so they're going off of old stigmas of who we are. So there are places we can't go for safety or for just job opportunities in general. So we talk on different topics like that. So if you're interested, please take a listen. That's the next stage for us to get to what we were talking about earlier of getting around in these inner cities and teaching these young men and young boys how to find their next home.
Well, we appreciate you, Coach. That's a mic drop moment. We'll definitely be watching you guys. It's ncaa.com, and I believe you guys play on Wednesday next week. Is that correct, Coach?
We play April 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's Tuesday. Yes.
Yeah, that would be Tuesday. Flying out Sunday, I'm assuming.
Yes, sir. We fly out Sunday at 10 a.m.
All right. Well, Godspeed on your travel, coach. We'll definitely be watching you guys on NCAA.com, and all of HBCU Nation will be behind you guys as you pull off the upset of the year. And remember, we had him on here first, y'all, when he pulls off the upset.
Shock the world, right?
We plan on it. That's the goal.
Shock it all, man. Shock it all. Coach Larry Rather, Fort Valley State Wildcats. Y'all don't say here Wildcats. What do y'all say at Fort Valley?
Go Wildcats.
Go Wildcats. That's what we're gonna be saying for the next 4 days. Go Wildcats. Thanks, Coach, for joining us. And with that, we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna come back for our final segment of the day. Once again, thank you, Coach Larry Rather, and good luck next week.
Thank you all.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Back here on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and you are taking a live look in at the 10,000 meter run. That is 25 laps. I do believe, fellas, it is 25 laps around. Maybe let me switch my camera. I don't know why, for some reason, this thing won't let me switch my camera back around so y'all can see my ugly mug. So I got to figure that out. Anyway, while I figure that out, Kelvin, we never got to come to you with the there it is. We never got to come to you with the news of the day, Kelvin. So you got any news of the day that you want to bring to the people?
No, not really. Just really looking forward to this upcoming football season, but also still not in shock around the Tamika Reed piece. But I think that's the best news of the day. Just looking at where we're going to go with basketball, men's and women's, and what's going to happen moving forward with the expansions of these tournaments. You know, and I guess and I might not have been involved in some of the conversations around just how impactful was it with Tamika Reed playing UConn in the first rounds of that tournament and that impact on her national footprint, being able to coach against Gino and cover the spread, Brian.
Yeah.
The news of Brian's ears right now, or the Brian's pockets. That's probably a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
No. She covered the spread.
I mean, that's what I said.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
I definitely will be following her in Charlotte. Put it like that. I will be following.
Right. There you go, Brian.
So how do you think she recruits? How do you think she recruits in Charlotte, Brian? Just based on what she was able to do in Jackson, at a HBCU in the SWAC, how do you think she'll be able to compete in that American Conference where she'll be competing with Memphis and teams of that nature? UAB, I believe, is in that conference. How do you believe she'll be able to recruit there, and will it really show her next level of coaching ability and recruiting ability to attempt to get to that next step at a Power 5?
I think that'll be the interesting thing to see, what the recruiting budget will be for her. The increase in the ability to travel to more places. How about just possibly being able to have a full staff with things like a basketball ops? Now, I mean, I don't know her entire staff, so maybe she had 5 assistants and director of ops and all these things that you usually have at your larger resource institutions, right? But I know the big thing might be the recruiting budget. So North Carolina is a very rich basketball area. So for her to be able to get into that North Carolina, Virginia, even maybe up to a little bit of the DC area, and really kind of get along that eastern seaboard. There's some ball players over there. And I think she will do well. I think she, that was one of the things that I talked about in some places about, when Tennessee was looking for a coach and her name was popping up. If I were the University of Tennessee, I would be looking at who's the most successful coach in women's basketball. Oh, it's Dawn Staley. Well, what is Dawn Staley? She is a black female that relates very well to today's young women and to student athletes. A heck of a communicator. She has a great story. I mean, there are so many synergistic similarities that
from Philadelphia.
I was like, yeah, it was like, yo, how does Tennessee not strongly consider? How does any program not look? So I applaud Charlotte for saying, hey, look, here's a young lady who she is dominated. And I'm not talking just being good, right? She has dominated her conference for especially the last 3 seasons, but I'll even go as far as the last 4 to 5. And when you do that, you know how to bring in talent, and you know how to coach them up to win ball games. And so that she gets a great opportunity. And so I don't think she'll be at Charlotte long, honestly. I think she'll do well enough that after about 3 years, there are going to be bigger schools looking at Tamika Reed.
Well, is it, Brian? So I don't know if you're familiar with Shirley Walker. Shirley Walker was the great women's coach at Alcorn State University. And at the same time, Van Chancellor was at Ole Miss. And Van Chancellor actually coached those early iterations of the Houston Comets to win the back-to-back WNBA championships. And with that being said, even with Shirley being, Coach Walker being as great as she was in the SWAC, I know there may have been offers to do something else, but I don't know if there were offers for her to lead a prospective program. But I think with the landscape changing, I think you're spot on with Tamika Reed. And I think it's, like you said with Tennessee, why wouldn't you look at a Dawn Staley? Because Tennessee has all the lore. They want this to be a productive program, whereas she built South Carolina basically brick by brick, building it up. But I can see Tamika Reed, if she can prove that she can recruit, stay relatable, and transition into that other environment in that PWI space. I think we could see someone that's up for another major job. But Dawn Staley, she chipped her way up as well. Starting at Temple and moving her way up the line.
I would say, fellas, I did promise you guys some baseball news. And earlier this week, there was a report came out that Tennessee State, not only are they going to start a hockey program, but they're looking to bring their baseball program back in, I believe, 28 is the target year for baseball. So, fellas, my question is twofold to you guys. A, just your general comments on the fact that we've got another HBCU that is adding baseball back into their to the programs. Over the last couple of years, we've seen Xavier and Dillard on the NAIA level. Oakwood has added it on the NAIA level. Central State will be added it on the Division II level. And now you're talking the possibility of Tennessee State adding baseball back. So what does that mean as far as your baseball fandom goes? That's number one. And then let me stop right there. Let me get y'all to answer that one first. You go up first, Brian.
I did a little. I'll never forget when we had a chance to do a broadcast in Nashville a couple of seasons ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
That was Tuskegee Lane.
Yeah, but we had an opportunity to talk with some people who were Tennessee State baseball alums, and I'll admit, prior to, I wasn't very familiar with the history of Tennessee State baseball. But here's a program that started in 1947, right? And what was it? It was 1993, so it's been almost 30 years since their program has been dormant, right? But during that 50 years, almost 50 years, right? They've had a good history of talent. They've had talented players. It started with George Altman, who was the major league player in 1959. He was the first major league player to come out of Tennessee State University. He was a 2-time All-Star with the I believe it's with the Chicago Cubs. You've also they've had a first-round draft pick, Terry Blocker, 1981, drafted 4th overall by the Atlanta Braves. They've even had Larry Herndon, who spent 14 seasons in the major leagues with St. Louis, the Giants, and then Detroit. So they've got some history. Now, their numbers aren't as plentiful as a Southern or a Grambling, but it's good to see that they're able to find the resources at the university to bring that sport back, because there is a alumni base of guys who are still alive, still active, and I think you increase the value of your school. You reach into that history pot and really can connect with the next generation when you can bring back a sport like baseball. And so kudos to Dr. Glover, Dr. Allen, everybody over at TSU who's making that possible. And I think I heard that it could come back as early as 2025, Drew. I don't know how that might be ambitious, but I heard 25 to 28. So I think they're still trying to figure out exactly when.
Yeah. Kelvin, your 2 cents.
Well, I think it just it really resonates with something that I heard from some MLB people around minority or black baseball players saying that if they're going to be built, if we're going to get more black baseball players, they won't be built in travel ball. It'll be built in these spaces that we create where we can nurture. And I think the volleyball coach actually really said something interesting in terms of being vulnerable and being in a space where you can learn, know, and grow. So that's the reason why I do believe that Jackson State and Southern have produced great baseball players out of their programs. And like in 1979, I believe, and that's a while ago, like 40 plus years, that they went 30-12, and they produced this MLB talent. So I think with the success shown, it's another place where we can bring our kids in, grow them, and get them to that next level of space, because they don't always want to go to the local PWI. You know, they want this, but if baseball isn't an option, so now, like Brian said, it adds to that historical footprint that TSU has, and along with this great funding that they're about to get, if they just get out of the bureaucracy piece of it, it should be able to do a great job.
Yeah. And just like Karen Griffin said, just like the alums at Morgan State brought wrestling back to Morgan State, and if you know anything about HBCU wrestling programs, Morgan State at one point in time was the epitome of wrestling when it came to HBCU athletes. So with that being said, fellas, we'll push it up against our time, so we'll go around and give our parting shots. Kelvin, I'll let you go back up since you just got through talking. Your voice is already warm.
Well, parting shots, Brian and AD, I'm so glad, we have a new head coach on the reservation and Alcorn State University, and we'll be looking forward to football season. And, the SWAC championship is on the horizon for us. And I know you guys are still, really basking in the glow of that FAMU component. So we look forward to seeing you guys at the SWAC championship. Congrats to Coach Said, and also congrats to Coach McNair on the new journey he's going to be out there with Dr. Cavil. They can be best buddies right there in Houston at Texas Southern. So we look forward to this being a great football.
Brian?
Well, today is the start of the NFL draft. So I've got 2 questions for both of you. First question.
No. I'm going to answer it already.
What? You don't even know what I'm going to ask.
Well, you going to ask what's an HBCU player going to get drafted?
I was going to say what round will the first HBCU football player be drafted in?
Brian, here's the question.
Hold on, you can't. All you got to do is give a number.
I hate to say answer your question with the question, but I've got to put it out. Over under HBCU players drafted in the NFL draft, or the players that were just drafted in the WNBA draft?
Oh my God!
Which one will have more? There was one player drafted in the WNBA draft, which was only 36 players.
I'm going to say the NFL, Drew. The NFL will have more players drafted than the WNBA that only has 36 spots. Come on now.
I'm going with the WNBA.
Oh, Kelvin, my God. I don't even want to go to my second question now because you two are ridiculous. but anyway, I'm curious to see. I'm setting my number at look, even if it's 2, it's more than the WNBA. But I actually
percentage-wise, it won't be anyway, because
anyway, I'm thinking
we got to throw the data analytics into it. Percentage-wise, it will not be.
Anyway, I'm going with it. I think there's going to be at least 3 guys that get drafted. Now, most of them will happen probably
tune in Saturday.
On Saturday, right, when rounds 4 through 7 happen. And I will not be surprised if one of those drafted is Davius Richard. I got a feeling 7th round draft. If Brock Purdy can be Mr. Irrelevant, I think, God dog it, I think Davius Richard is relevant and worthy of being able to be drafted somewhere before the very last spot. Just my opinion. We'll find out on Sunday whether I'm wrong or right.
He has one thing working against himself. He looks like us.
Oh, stop.
And with that being said, tune in to Sunday's BCSN Sports Wrap to see how wrong Brian is with his predictions. Anyway, thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and your colleagues. AD Drew sitting in for running the ship at the request of Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the College of HBCU Sports. Mike Washington, Charles Bishop out on assignment, Brian Fulford, Kelvin Carter stepping in as our guest lecturers today. Again, we hope you enjoy today's episode. I want to thank Coach Larry Rather for joining us today also. Thank you once again for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we will discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow Dr. Kenyatta Cavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Kelvin.
Does he
dream big? Dream big. We'll talk to you soon.
No, Brian.
Of course.
You remember now, Kelvin? Just say lecture.
Lecture. Lecture.
Dismiss.
Got to read those show notes, baby. Those show notes, boy.